Welcome to Glen Talks, where we speak all things in the world of business in the local community. We offer inclusive insights and exclusive experiences. Today's guest has a career spanning over 30 years in the banking sector. He currently serves as the regional president for British Columbia in the Royal Bank of Canada. Martin Thibodeau has joined us today and will be talking about his life, his career, and his journey so far, the recent acquisition of the HSBC Bank of Canada, and investing for young youth, and a few other topics that you're going to find interesting. So thanks very much for joining us, Martin, and we look forward to hearing more from you. Martin, you've been with the RBC for a career of over 3 decades, holding various management positions across the country. Can you share a bit about how your career progressed and how these diverse experiences shaped your leadership approach?
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Serena, for the question. Yeah, 34 years with the bank, and I guess my career can be summarized with 6 numbers. 34, 12, 8, 6, 3, and 1. Mm-hmm. It's probably more than 6, maybe 7. So 34 years with the company. I have relocated my family 12 times for RBC. We have covered 8 provinces, lived in 6 Canadian cities. I have 3 kids and 1 wife. Mm. So that's the journey, right? And in numbers. Being a banker, I had to maybe start with a bit of numbers, but I got recruited right out of university. Mm-hmm. The bank came on campus, and I didn't go because it was November and I was graduating in April. I said, I don't want to work for a bank. The only company that came back in April, the month I was graduating, was RBC. They came back and they were recruiting, and I decided to go for the interview. Mm-hmm. And then I went for the second interview, mm-hmm. and then they gave me a job. So that was the start of my career with RBC in a branch. Yeah. Great foundation, serving clients, mm-hmm. Seeing different types of clients, personal, business, clients that have a lot of wealth, some that are new to build their wealth, and some that are maybe struggling, some elders, some students. Like, you see a lot in a day, in a week, in a year. So did a couple of years in bank, in the branches, mm-hmm. then doing different roles. It was very, very profound in terms of building a strong foundation.
Mm-hmm. And you get to see people through a completely different lens, I guess, when you're coming up and you have a different relationship built with some regular customers that come in, and kind of seeing how they meet financial goals. And I can imagine it can be a very rewarding job, but also very heart-wrenching to kind of see some of the stuff that people go through in their lives.
Absolutely. You see a wide range and money and emotions. It brings up. And of course, our job is not just to do the transactions, to help the clients and to provide help and advice. But when you start, I was 22, there's so much experience and life experience you have. So thank goodness we have great training program at RBC that really helps to bring maybe some perspective, advice, and solutions. But you're still learning, mm-hmm. and so it's difficult sometimes to share experience you don't have yet. But you learn a lot, mm-hmm. and you create relationships, to your point, and then clients that are waiting for you, mm-hmm. And that's very rewarding when you have a client that wants to wait to be served for you directly. And then I did different roles in the branch, and then became the assistant branch manager at the age of 23 years old.
And is that when you realized you were going to be a lifer, or?
Not quite yet.
Nope.
Not quite yet. That was my first leadership experience. This was the most difficult one. Mm-hmm. I had 26 direct reports with the part-time, and you just I didn't have a lot of tools in my toolbox to mm-hmm. deal with, different issues. Someone who's sick, or someone who's having issues with the kids at home, or someone who's not performing in the job. Like, what do you do? How do you coach? And it's not as easy as it looks, right?
No, and being a young professional still at that point, having to manage people that are much more your senior to come across and still be respectful and maintain being respectful for them for their age, but then respecting your role too. I can imagine it would be.
It was very hard, I found. So after doing, I would say, okay, I moved to corporate banking, and that was a dream to work in commercial lending. And that was the start of a career dealing with business entrepreneurs. And that was amazing in terms of the growth of being exposed to the economy of a city and a province, and dealing with entrepreneurs that are starting a business, or growing a business, acquiring businesses, winding down a business. Like, you learn a lot by helping and following and supporting entrepreneurs. And that was really for many, many years, 14 years in commercial banking. So just a great experience
where you built a lot of passion, I can imagine, seeing so many things.
Absolutely. And then the best part of the job, of course, you do your applications, but the best part is to visit the business, to see the team, the staff, of course, doing the tour of the plant, if there's a plant, or just a tour of the facility, and hearing the journey of the company, the entrepreneur, the team, the growth, the struggles, the challenges. These site visits are extremely powerful to build a relationship, but to also learn. You learn how you're going to serve that client better, because you know what works, what doesn't work, what they actually need. And you come back to the office with so much more insights than if you don't do a visit. Unfortunately, we are in 2024, and still sometimes you see advisors that don't take the time to go out and visit their clients. And something that I'm very passionate is, if you really want to understand a client, take the time to go and visit, not at the bank, at the place of business.
Build that relationship at their heart.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. So how have those experiences shaped your leadership style now?
Well, I think both professionally and personally, after maybe 10 years, I had done a number of moves in Quebec. They offered me to go to New Brunswick. So a first big relocation of my family. I had 3 kids at the time. It's tough. Like, you're really, like, you're leaving Montreal, going to Moncton, New Brunswick. And there were, like, as I said, 12 different relocations in 34 years. So you're moving from places to places, from Moncton to Charlottetown to Halifax and Winnipeg and Saskatoon and Regina and Thunder Bay and Sudbury. So Montreal, Toronto, and now Vancouver. So one thing for sure is myself and my family were very good in Canadian geography.
I bet.
We know the country really well. 2 provinces that we haven't really covered is Alberta and Newfoundland, but we visited though. So we have a certain...
And some would argue that they're pretty close to each other, with a lot of people that go back and forth. So
that's true. Exactly. Yeah. And so having moved from different geography and different roles as well does shape you as a leader, because you see different... It's the same. It's one country with a lot of nuances, right? If you're in Atlantic Canada, there's things that are specific to Atlantic Canada. When you're on the West Coast, it's a different reality. So you learn from the people. You learn from the differences in the economy, politically as well, like the whole aspect of life, and then the people, the fabric of the society. When you're in Vancouver, the Lower Mainland, it is rich in culture, in large, culturally speaking, the largest, South Asian community and Asian community or among, certainly after Toronto, the largest after. When you're in Atlantic Canada, not so much, right? And if you're in Winnipeg or in Saskatoon, well, there's a large farming community. So depending on where you are, you learn a lot. It's always about that learning, deep learning. Same with my kids and my wife, because they had to be exposed to different. So all these differences. So you don't realize it as you start to move, but that's a lot of experience that you build. Plus, at the bank, inside the bank, it's one bank with some nuances too.
Yeah.
The way they do things, there's a magic of RBC in Atlantic Canada or in Quebec City, and there's a magic of how we do things on the West Coast. So that's something that always intrigued me. I said, wow, we're the same company with some very interesting nuances. And that helps you to, I guess, to grow as a leader. And first, when you arrive to a new location, the previous one is behind.
Yeah.
Where you live and where you work is the place. So when we were in Moncton, New Brunswick, we're not talking about Quebec City or Montreal.
Right.
We are in Moncton. When you're in Winnipeg, you're not talking about Toronto. You're in Winnipeg and you're in the prairies. And that's something I coach my kids, because if you're always constantly talking about the place you came from, you're not actually taking the time to be in. And the same thing being on the West Coast. You have to become a West Coaster, and quickly.
Yeah.
So making connections with people and finding personally a doctor, a dentist, and all these things, plus the relationships you make with friends and family and business, and that brings me to the community. I think it's something I've always had, even before the bank, but certainly at RBC. But one way to get to know people is to look at what's important in the community. For example, in Vancouver or in the Lower Mainland or in BC Children, United Way, Covenant House. Like there's lots of examples like this, right?
Science World, the
Science
Vancouver
World.
Aquarium. Yeah, you are involved in a lot, and that's admirable. And making so many of those moves over the years, I'm sure it's made your family stronger. But I'm sure having to try and find new identity and assimilating into those new places has probably been a big growth, but you also get to learn who you are apart from your surroundings that are around you. So
you don't have, when you come to a place, you don't have 10 years to build a network. So you really have to go quick, to be quick. And the same for the kids. They have to make friends quickly. They don't have and that would be something, building that resiliency of not being afraid of going, and you're just going and meeting people. And of course the community is a great place. The school would be also a great place when the kids were younger, with other parents, and having the kids involved in different things like soccer and hockey and different sports, skiing and the play. And my kids were even involved in arts a lot. So you meet parents, and then it's interesting how this leads to, but the same thing with the kids. But I think that the hard part is you have to start over all again. And that's, it's always a lot of tears. And it's funny, it's also the tears when you leave. You leave the place, and there was always a way to measure success. Are the kids crying when we leave? And they always did. Because they really enjoyed the journey and the place where they were. And we had a tremendous 5 years in the prairies. We had 3.5 years in Atlantic Canada, and it was phenomenal. And many years in Quebec, of course, and now 6 in BC so far. And you have to enjoy the moment and build these strong connections, and also to give back. It's not about always taking, right? I think if you're running a business, either as an entrepreneur or myself as a banker, we have responsibility to make this place a better place, and as leaders, and having our entire team doing the same, and doing something, even if it's small. We have over 8,000 employees in BC. If we all do something, it multiplies. And we're very proud, because in BC, it's amazing to see this sense of engagement for the community. It's quite remarkable. And I do my part, but I'm not alone to do it. I have an army of people that are involved day after day, giving back their time. Sometimes it's time and money, or it's be on the board, or organizing an event. And I think if we all do this with the context of our maybe limitation and family and whatnot, but then this is how you build a strong community. I think in BC we should be very proud. There is that sense of strong community in either in Surrey or in Richmond or in Abbotsford or in Burnaby or Vancouver. I see that during my visits and my trips throughout the province, the Vancouver Island, and of course the interior and the north. There's a strong attachment, which is I think is how you build strong, businesses and strong communities. It goes hand in hand.
Do you have any advice for young aspiring people that are looking to get into this?
Yeah. I think one piece of advice that I have for our young leaders is, whenever you're comfortable, it's time to get uncomfortable. And it's easy to stay in that state of comfort because, if you get good at something, it's good to stay in that state. But the challenge is you stop learning. Mm-hmm. The learning comes from being uncomfortable. Either you're growing into your role, into different roles, moving to different places, maybe changing different industries. Whatever is your journey, staying comfortable is not a great way to grow. So that's, for me, the best piece of advice is whenever you start to be comfortable, especially when you start your career, mm-hmm. right? It's time to be uncomfortable. So it's time to maybe to go back and take some additional, studies and completing a master degree, or maybe it's time to look for a different opportunity within your company and learn something, a new skill. And as you do this over and over and over, and I had to practice this each time I was starting to be comfortable, the bank came and gave me something else. And mm-hmm. it's hard because you have to start all over. And
you have to spend the time and the effort, and you're trying to maintain a family at the same time and juggle everything. And
it's hard.
Yeah.
But then you fast forward, in my case, like 34 years later, I see the value of being uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And even today, I push myself. Am I being too comfortable? Mm-hmm. It's easy in British Columbia to be very comfortable with the place you live, work, and play because it's so beautiful. So pushing yourself, okay, am I still learning? Am I still growing? And in my case, it's less about me because after 34 years, a big part of my job is to help people to grow their own career and to go and accelerate that career. And I try to go with the mentoring and the sponsorship, but at the same time, that one piece of advice that I think helps people to say, it's time to.
You give them the opportunity to be uncomfortable now too.
Yeah, yes.
For growth. And we'll talk a little bit more about how your plate's gotten a little bit bigger in a little bit. But I think we want to talk a little bit about kind of, the current events of what's going on for many young people. And frankly, everyone today is struggling with cost of living and inflation and the challenge of saving money. So what strategies can you recommend for young adults to manage their finances effectively and to still find ways to invest for their future?
Okay. Well, maybe your viewers won't like my answer, but I'll take my own example. We had only one salary when I started in life. It was a choice, and I had to make sacrifices. Most of my friends didn't have kids until their mid-30s. I had kids in my mid-20s. They were new cars and going out and doing trips. I could not do. Well, I could have done this, but with a big credit card and maybe some loans and not being able to save. So I did a lot of sacrifices and I saved money to buy a home. And so you have to make choices. And in this case, I made the choice I couldn't follow my friends. I would invite them at home and we would do a nice barbecue. And you have hamburgers, not steaks, right? Because that's what I can afford. So it's about making some difficult choices. If you have those goals, I had a goal to own a home, and early on, I was able to save money. It was hard. It was hard with one salary to make it work. I know it's hard today, but what I see in general is our younger population being exposed to so much. It's hard to resist it, to not want everything. There's a time and place for everything. It's just time. And you have to maybe establish what are your priorities. There's a time to travel. For the first 15 years of my life, I wasn't visiting the world. I couldn't afford it. And I wanted to focus on the home and then the kids' education. These are tough choices. And along the way, as you improve in your financial situation, through hard work and making choices, then you can start making more, you can do more things and more dreams, if you will, because I always had those dreams too, but and I learned this from my parents.
Yeah.
My parents were very hard worker, grade 7 and grade 9, so no education. But they learned, they had many great qualities, but the one is they would not go above their means. And they, through hard work, one step at a time, build the foundation, and then over time achieve some of their dreams. So I would say if you early on you make some important sacrifices, especially in the context of today. This is why you need a good banker, because a good banker can help you. And I'll give you a quick example. You think, that as a banker, after 15 years, I would have been a pro at savings, and I was saving some money for my kids' education, and I sat down with a financial planner with my wife, and we established our 3 goals. We like to travel, we want to save money for retirement, and of course for our kids' education. That was the number 1 goal. I was saving $50 a month. And reviewing the situation with 3 kids, we did a full plan. Said, well, at that rate, you're not going to accumulate the money to support your kids when they. So here's some. So this financial planner said, how about if this is your number 1 priority, how about we maximize your RESPs and maximize all the money that goes to education first for the next 10 years or the next 7 to 10 years. And that meant to change our budget, to shift things. And I listened to that piece of advice. Interesting, you fast forward about 7, 8 years later, and 10 years later, my kids are in university, and we have enough money for them to go to school in our fund, the fund that we had accumulated. So I said, wow, I probably wouldn't have done it this way by myself, because it's easier to spend the money than to save the money, even for myself, even if I make those sacrifices.
And that's, in a sense, making yourself uncomfortable now to be comfortable later. And,
absolutely.
Disposable income, even though you might have the room to spend it on it, your outcome's going to be that you may be struggling down the road. You need to plan for the future.
And sometimes, not sometimes, I would say oftentimes, sitting with someone just to talk about your financial situation and getting that perspective really helps to get a good, like a mirror of what's the current situation. And how do you improve? And I think, I see this with a lot of our first-time home buyers. My goodness, when they access the home, the pride that they have. But they have, in many cases, met a good financial advisor at the bank, and that helped them to save the money, access to that dream home to start. My son just bought a home in Kitchener. He lives in Kitchener with his wife, and it is expensive. Like, I don't know, like, wow. But he's made a lot of sacrifices for the past 2 years, and they have the cash down, and they don't make millions, right? And he did this by himself. And he's 30 years old. So it comes maybe later on in life than when I started, because it was a bit maybe easier, but it's still possible.
That gives you a tremendous amount of pride. So
it sure does, yes.
Looking ahead, what do you see as the most significant challenges and opportunities facing the banking sector, and especially in terms of tech advancements and changing customer expectations?
Well, there's one thing I know about my industry is that change is a constant. It's a constant. There's always been changes from the ATMs that came in the 80s to automation, a lot of automation in the 90s, to online banking in the 2000s, and a lot more technology. And today, of course, the non-traditional competitors such as Amazon and Apple and also just AI in general, like we're a much more technology company somehow than a bank. And because if you own the data, you have a lot of power in your hands. So how do you use technology to add value to your clients is the name of the game. And if we think of Apple, they use they use the tools, but the data they have to create a lot of value and a lot of easiness. So for us, there's still a lot of changes coming to our industry, and technology is for sure a big one. And I believe that AI is a way to expand and propel and expand the speed at which you do things. It has maybe some negative sides in the hands of the wrong people. I think that this is the aspect of AI that I think we need to reflect on.
Be cautious.
Because what we see on the cybersecurity side, it's not AI, but it's again in that space of technology. In the past couple of weeks, over the past couple of weeks, we've seen 2 cybersecurity attacks. 2 companies that are right here in BC.
Yeah, it hurts a significant BC company owned.
Yes,
And
absolutely. So it's real. So protecting is a big part, I think, of how you change and evolve. Because when it hits you and you're not protected, it's financial consequences and can put your company on its knees. But then if you use technology and AI and to your advantage, you can go faster than your competitors. And examples of using AI to take more sample calls on the phone. We are doing this, we're testing this as we speak in a very effective way. You're calling and it's not a person, it's a robot. And it's really helping you with some simple needs. But it's allowing us to focus on more complex needs. So it's not that it's eliminating jobs, it's really creating opportunities to use resources differently. And there's one thing in my industry that I don't think will change for the next many years, is we are a people business. So technology is always there. It supports us. It drives a lot of advancements, but a human touch, the empathy, the helping advice, that personal connection, that relationship, we're not there yet with AI. And maybe if it comes, I hope it comes after I retire.
It would stick in the age of intelligence, not the artificial one.
But I think the changes we will see, they look scary or frightening, but at the same, you could look at the glass half empty or look at the glass half full. In reflecting on the past, we all have iPhone now. I think it's how you use the tools. Is the tool driving you or you're balancing?
Or is it leading you?
Yes.
So there's a few, there's so many new things that are out in the market, like Bitcoin and digital currency. How has that challenged kind of the traditional banking model? And do you have any advice? Because I got a lot of friends that are doing this mining right now. So can you fill me in?
Yeah, well, I would say it's a good thing that we're seeing, digital currencies, and things are always evolving. So you can't stop it. What I will say about something that's as new as Bitcoin, I say new, it's in the history of humankind. It's new in what the banking system and the financial system, is based on one thing: trust. We've seen this with Silicon Valley. If everyone runs to the bank over a weekend, there's no more bank.
Right.
So it doesn't take a lot to create instability and to erode that trust. So I would say I'm not against Bitcoin or new digital currencies. The Bank of Canada is testing. So I think this is where we are. It's still early. What I see with Bitcoins or other digital currencies is there's a lot of instability and volatility with the tool. You can't apply that yet to a whole financial system. Could you imagine today, I would look and say, well, your dollar is worth 10 cents. And then tomorrow or next week, it's worth $5. It would play with your emotions a little bit, right? So when it's $5,
why I don't go to the casino.
Yes. When it's $5, it feels probably good. When it goes to 10 cents, and we've seen these, and the financial system needs to be stable. Right? We have enough instability in the world. We need something that helps companies and businesses and individuals to achieve their goals without having to worry about, is my money safe? Is it still there? Has it disappeared? Is it worth something? And we're testing, and I love reading and seeing where this is going. It's too early, in my humble opinion, to bring this massively in our banking system, not only in Canada, but around the world.
Yeah.
It has a lot of risk to take this to up and down, and I think it's not yet there. And it will probably, I am hopeful that over time, we will have, is it Bitcoin? There will be a digital currency at one point that will work and create that stability and open market stability, but without eroding the trust. Because if people don't have the trust, there's no systems. There's
Which is
no banking
maybe why
system.
it goes up and down a little
Absolutely.
bit now too. So there may be some use and there may be some merit for it if the Bank of Canada is looking at the idea, seeing it. So then on that level, would you consider it to be more of like a competitor of the bank, or would you consider it to be up in the level of like its own currency of what, like where the dollar is and stuff like that?
Yeah.
I guess it would be too early to tell.
It's too early. I think it's pushing the banking system to actually innovate and can we eventually create a digital currency that is taking from what we are seeing in the market and things that we could come up with as a banking system
without creating instability, right?
Yeah. Like we did with the banking, the ATM system, where we created a system that's connected with all the banks around the world, right? It's quite phenomenal that you can go to a competitor and withdraw money. We take this for granted. But
now, what year did the ATM come out?
It started in 1973.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it was really propelled in the 80s.
Okay.
It's where we saw them coming in most branches in 1984, 1986. And I started in 1989, and we had in our branch new ATMs, and people were very afraid of ATMs because this was our clients thought this would eliminate all the jobs. And it has not. It didn't. It moved it moved certain aspect of the work, but it created new opportunities within the bank, which is amazing.
Probably lent some opportunity to help some different companies claw back after the economic recession in the early 80s too, I think. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
To help them. So I got a question about card processing, and we had one of our viewers, just a small business owner. And with COVID and with all this digital adoption, so many people are using, touch card banking. And there's a lot of really high rewards cards and stuff out of there. And it's the small businesses that are dealing with these transaction fees. So how do we get over that expensive hurdle of payment processing? Kind of why is it so expensive, which I think is part of that rewards card item. But the competition in that market, what would need to happen to kind of help try and bring that down for businesses? It's a bit of a concern. It's, sometimes it's like 2 to 3%, sometimes on each transaction. So,
and I understand when you start a business, every cent, every dollar counts. There's no question. But if you look over the past 40 years, 30 years, 20 years, the cost of transactions in Canada, North America, has gone down significantly.
Oh, really?
Even 15 years ago, 4% was the norm, right? And that was expensive, and it's come down to 3%, 2%. As a company, do more volumes. So I would say for a small business, as you grow, review your transactions. As you grow, your fees go down. And if you're a provider like RBC, our provider is Moneris, stay in touch with your Moneris rep because as you go up with volume, your costs, we have different thresholds for. So reviewing your banking in general, personal and business, every year is a good practice to lower your cost. And you will not find at RBC an advisor that is not open and excited to help you to lower your cost, because this is how you add value, helping you to save money and reduce your cost. And the more we do this, the more we help. It's not just about charging. And the more you do this, then you help companies to actually focus on growing their business as opposed to paying fees. But the fees have gone down. And I think with more technology coming, we will continue to see a pressure for the consumers and for the businesses. And I think that's something that I would say for your viewers, that it is expensive, but way less expensive. One thing we are seeing is we're doing a lot more transactions than ever before. So that's something we can stop. And then there's different options and different cards that offers different rewards. And we see a lot of our companies using the Avion card to buy all their furniture, equipment, and they use the points for them and even for staff. Yeah. There's different ways to offset maybe a cost that's here to create value on the other side.
So recently, there's been a big flurry of news. There's been an acquisition of HSBC Bank by RBC, $13.5 billion in the acquisition, all taken over 16 months to do. And it's just recently everything's taken shape. So how has that journey been?
Well, I've been so fortunate, first and foremost, to be invited early on to be on the bidding team. Never done this, and I was the only field executive to be invited. Not because I'm very smart, just because I live in BC, and 40% of HSBC Canada is in BC. And I had good intel. I had always good even connections in terms of knowing my competitors, and so that was helpful to be on the bidding team. And we won the bid. That was like 8 weeks of hard work to do the second round, and then you think you're there. You won the bid, and now there's something called the integration team, and that my work became even like more real in terms of, because a lot of that integration is right here. In Toronto and in Vancouver is 80% of HSBC Canada. So 14 months of working around integration, building the plans, the learning plans, the training programs, the communication plans for clients. And one of the features of this acquisition was to close and convert over a weekend. It's never been done in our industry, in most industries. Usually you acquire a business, and along the way, you acquire and integrate. You unplug systems, plug systems along the way. You transfer clients and platforms 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. HSBC was adamant. It was a very important aspect of the bid, the ability to close and convert. We committed to do this. It was very risky, but we decided this is what it takes. We have, of all in the industry, the Canadian industry, the largest technology team. So we knew we had enough depth to do this. So I wasn't responsible for that part, but I was responsible with the other team on the integration of branches and roles, and after a lot of work, a lot of additional work on top of managing your day job, the long weekend of Easter, we converted everything. And just to give you a perspective, the National Library, the U.S. National Library, has 12 terabytes of data in their library. We transitioned and converted 92 terabytes of data during that weekend. It's a lot of this. So personal and commercial. Yeah. 750,000 clients with all their products and services, accounts, GICs, mutual funds, mortgages, businesses, same thing. And as we prepared for this, there was a lot of work done. And one of the way we saw that to mitigate the risk of failure, we did 3 large dress rehearsals over 3 specific weekends, one in November and that one was a learning.
Yeah.
And the second one in January, early January, and this one was not necessarily very positive. And this
No.
is where we still had a choice: go, no go. And if it's a no go, the consequences, right? And a few weeks after, in February, the third dress rehearsal. So we did a lot of work in between the learnings.
Right.
And the third one was a phenomenal success.
It was a symphony.
It's a symphony.
Yeah.
And to see all our senior executive sharing, but very quietly, but sharing how big of a success that third dress rehearsal was, we knew that if we just do exactly the same, it would be fine. And we still had a few learnings, but we knew now we are very confident we can do this without losing people's money and data and could imagine, right? It wasn't just about getting the data. We also needed to get the data from the past 7 years. So all your past transactions with HSBC, we needed to have this inside the bank and store it somewhere if you need it, because by law we need to keep 7 years of records.
Right.
So there's a lot of risks in there. And then as we reopened the saving accounts on Saturday, and then the loans and the credit cards and the mortgages, as we opened the switches one by one, we saw the data being going over, and it was a technology feat, if you will, in terms of success. And I hope one day we see this at Harvard Business Review somehow, that aspect of because one of the promise we made to our clients, it's going to be a smooth transition in the transition itself, and it was. One of our KPIs, don't make the headlines. Yeah. No headlines. So when we reopened on April 1st, April Fools, and
it could have gone either way, but you knew it when, of course.
I also learned that April Fools after noon. At noontime, it's no longer that in place. So we actually open at noontime. Don't know if it's a coincidence, but as we reopened our doors on April 1st, we knew that it had gone really well. And of course, clients had questions, and of course, clients came to see us sometimes just to see, is my money there? I see it, but I want to just be reassured.
Will the money come out of the bank?
Yes, exactly. Testing the ATMs, because we also had to, on top of transitioning all the data, we had to, over that weekend, convert 128 branches from coast to coast. We have 44 in BC, and remove all the signage, all the new signage, from HSBC to RBC, change all the computers inside each branch. The ATMs, they have a different technology, different ATMs. So we had to do a lot of work so we could also open our doors. And as we reopen, all that signage, all the ATMs, all the computers to serve the clients, and of course the staff, it was there too, and it was a very smooth transition. And now I can say it was a success after 8 weeks. And we've been able to even see like it's been done.
Just an exhilarating feeling, I can imagine. And were you there when you saw the crane moving the big sign in Vancouver?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's funny you say that, as they were doing this, I was driving on Hornby. I live on Hornby, Pacific and Hornby, and I was driving and I arrived at the corner and I see the crane, and there's one RBC on one side that's been put up, and there's still the HSBC. It was kind of surreal to see the transition. I said, wow, this is happening. And I've been in banking for 34 years, and I was optimistic about the technology because we had done the dress rehearsals. But on the physical aspect, I had some trepidation in terms of, are we able to do this? Sometimes we consolidate 2 branches and we have a lot of issues and delays, and we're talking weeks here. And we couldn't wait any weeks.
And how many branches was it now?
Well, we converted 128 branches over a weekend.
And in BC there was
44.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's been quite a journey, and I have to say we paid 13.5 billion for an amazing brand, and the brand is the people, and I'm very impressed with the caliber of employees, and of course the clients that are coming to RBC. Same thing. So what we saw during the bidding process, where we did a lot of due diligence with limited information, is what we saw is very close to what we got, and actually very close. And now 8 weeks in the making, we are well positioned to be this international banking of choice. That's one of our goals. We want to be the international bank of choice. As we're not there yet, but we want to be the bank of newcomers.
Yeah.
We were, but now we want to be the undisputed bank for newcomers. And we want to be the bank for trade finance, for exporters. As these are all capabilities that HSBC had. Foreign currency accounts, global payments, an amazing trade platform to export that we didn't have. We didn't have this, but we built it.
Wow.
And now we have foreign currency accounts. Yeah. We have global payments and global view, and we have our trade finance platform that we've built. They're not arrive at destination. We're going to continue to make investments in these three, so we can really aspire and ultimately be that bank of choice for newcomers, and be this international bank for Canadians, and support our entrepreneurs with their their business as they export around the world. So yeah, so far I'm very pleased, and now we're working on bringing the teams together. Speaking about inclusion and diversity, like it's the inclusion of the two. So learning from HSBC, what are some of the best practices that they have? And there are many. And we are number one for a reason. There must be a few things we do right. So we want to make sure we keep what we do well. Yep. So the best of both worlds, a bigger family and now a stronger family.
And looking to the future, there is a number of promises that you've made with the government for them to support the acquisition.
Yep.
One of them, I think, is a big hub that you guys are planning in the Vancouver area, and affordable housing as well. Can you share a little bit about those?
Yeah. Well, there were a number. The first is, as you said, the creation of a global financial hub, and the addition of 1,000 jobs in British Columbia. And this is not only a commitment, it's happening as we speak. We had the first delegation of senior leaders that came from LA and New York and Toronto and Chicago, and from technology, risk management, operations, real estate. They came to BC to see, do we have enough, I guess, supply of labor to create this hub? Are we? So we did a 2-day roadshow meeting with UBC, SFU. We even visited Microsoft, who has a hub here with 2,000 jobs. So kind of learning about the market, and I led this group of showing all the great things we have in BC, and of course all the amenities we have outside of the work. But do we have enough, I guess, talent? And the answer is yes. We have 25 universities in British Columbia. We often talk about UBC and SFU, but we have University of Fraser Valley, and we have University of BC and BC North. We have so many in the UBCO in the Okanagan. So it's we are well positioned to supply the bank with what they need, right. And then this creation of global financial hub is a first, and it's exciting because it means for the community, of course, more prosperity. We're going to be investing in creating 1,000 jobs, net 440 inside the bank, but ultimately 1,000 new jobs. But for our employees, possibility to get to those jobs without having to go to Toronto.
Yeah.
Right? It's right here on the West Coast. We're not just a sales agency. We have this amazing hub. And I'd like to believe that in 3 to 5 years, can this hub become larger?
Yeah.
I think it will. I think it will grow.
And it's shifting the landscape of banking in Canada because everything
Absolutely.
seems to be out east. So that's phenomenal to see
Yes.
that kind of growth here in British Columbia. And speaking about growth of British Columbia, we were talking about housing and being able to afford houses earlier. And part of that acquisition included setting aside $7 billion for affordable housing. $2 billion of that is allocated to British Columbia. So how do we get the gambit going on this? And do you have any advice for developers that are looking to get in on this?
Well, it takes a number of stakeholders. So the first question is, do we have the capital? Well, the answer is yes, 7 billion, and 2 specifically to this market. So the money is there, it's available. How do we deploy that money and accelerate the deployment?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you need developers to start more projects,
Mm-hmm.
but you also need governments and cities to facilitate the acceleration on the permitting
Mm-hmm.
side. And, most measures in general tend to be applied to the demand.
Mm-hmm.
We often try to suppress the demand or slow down the demand to create a more balanced market because we know it's unaffordable. But this is hard to play on the demand side.
Mm-hmm.
This is hard because we're in British Columbia. People want to come here.
Yeah.
We also need immigration. You can't stop it. Even if you lower it, it creates other problems.
Mm-hmm.
We have a shortage of jobs in so many sectors,
Mm-hmm.
nurses, electricians, and so on, engineers. Like it's difficult. So we need to move from the demand to the supply.
Right.
And I know it has not been popular to talk about the supply, but this is where we need to help all aspects of this ecosystem, governments, developers, and banking to come together. And we're seeing a sign of that. This past year, I have to say, I'm seeing a lot of commitments, willingness to accelerate and have more supply coming to the market. And if you have more supply than demand,
Mm-hmm.
prices will stabilize. And it will never be totally affordable, but it will stop being crazy unaffordable. And
Right.
I think that's something we can hope, so people can have access to a home. Either they're renting or owning. It's still the two sides are very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
When it costs $2,500 for a 1-bedroom. Put yourself in the
If
shoes,
you're lucky.
If you're lucky, exactly. Put yourself in the shoes of someone who starts,
Yeah.
and I put myself in these shoes often in terms of our branches. You start in banking,
Mm-hmm.
and how do you afford to even the rent? You need 2 jobs at times, which is why we accelerate their career and their growth, and then they increase their disposable income. But it's definitely a factor. But the money, the capital is
Mm-hmm.
there, the commitment is there, and we're working with our developers and with municipalities and with provincial governments to obviously accelerate, because it's the only way we can hope.
Help provide a little
Yeah.
bit of relief.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And we've got a quick rapid fire
Okay.
section. Now this is one word to one sentence
that's tough for
answers,
me.
and you just got to snap them off.
Okay.
So we're gonna maybe learn something new about you here.
Okay,
Lowest golf score ever that you've had.
84.
Okay, I'm a mulligan queen. So if you could go for a round of golf with anyone in the world, who would it be?
Well, I'd go with 2 because I play with my wife. So I would go with Barack Obama and Michelle Obama. And I think we would do an amazing foursome together. I don't know if we'd play any golfs, but
Yeah.
we'd have fun.
One word to describe your leadership style.
Authentic.
Early bird or night owl?
Night owl. Big time.
Best piece of advice you ever received?
Oh. When you're comfortable, it's time to be uncomfortable.
Favorite city in BC?
It's tough.
I know, I can't do that to you, can I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Whistler, Kelowna.
Okay. Favorite vacation spot in Canada?
Well, it's easy.
Same as
Whistler.
favorite book on leadership or business?
Oh, Who Moved My Cheese by Kenneth Blanchard.
Favorite go-to restaurant for doing business at?
El Giardino.
Secret hidden talent you might have?
I'm a good dancer.
Right on. Most adventurous thing you've ever done?
Bungee jumping last summer.
Okay.
Nanaimo.
Favorite hobby outside work?
Skiing.
Go-to comfort food?
Oh my goodness, Italian food. And yeah, there's lots of food that I like, but Italian food and Chinese food, South Asian food.
We said
that,
one.
Yeah, I know, but it's hard to pick because that butter chicken and the bread and Chinese food, Thai food, and of course Italian food. It's just like
We found the key to his heart.
Yes.
Today.
Yes.
Favorite movie of all time?
Schindler's List.
Cats or dogs?
Cats.
Favorite type of music?
Rock.
Beach vacation or mountain getaway? I already know the answer.
Mountain.
And if you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Oh, superpower. Singing.
If you could switch jobs with one person for a day, who would it be?
Oh my goodness. Oh, I absolutely firefighter.
Cool.
That would be fun. I would have to go back to the gym first.
No. You would get the physique, you'd get everything. That would just be instantly. One item on your bucket list you haven't checked off yet.
Visiting the Taj Mahal.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I have a wonderful gift for you for coming in.
Oh, thank you.
As a small token of our appreciation for you today, but it's been phenomenal getting to know you a little bit today, and thank you so much for all of your insight and helping to pull all that stuff off and making our lives a little bit easier. So thank you very much, Martin.
Thank you, Serena. It was a pleasure to be with you today. Thank you.
That's our show for today. If you like the content that you see, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Share it with your friends and colleagues. We're going to continue to bring you inclusive insights and exclusive experiences. See you next time.